you don't have to do it all yourself. It's all about finding a team. So, like for instance, I'm an underwriter, but some other positions are like the sponsor, the asset manager. I don't even know how different because it breaks up by skills. You might do one or two things or three things, but so that's why networking is important because you'll find people that are good at things you didn't even know you had to develop a skill in.
Guys, welcome back to the Robinson Review. This is Todd Robinson. I'm your host, and we are super excited today to have with us Mr. William Bertolasio. Did I say that right?
Yes,
It,
you said that
yeah,
right.
it sounds Italian. Is that Italian?
It is. It's Italian.
Yeah, awesome, awesome. Well, William Bertolasio is an investor out of Texas, Houston, Texas, to be exact, and he is starting his real estate investing career. He actually joined our program, Multifamily Dealmakers, about maybe almost a year ago, or 8 or 9 months ago. And he was successful in acquiring an 80-unit apartment building without actually putting in any of his own money. So we're going to go through that process and break that down for you guys, how he did that. What did he learn along the way? What challenges has he encountered? And where's he going to go from here? Right? How does this help him launch his real estate investing career? Without further delay, I want to introduce William. William, just give us a little background of you, who you are, kind of your origin story, where you came from, and how we got to here today.
Okay. So I'm native born Texan. I've lived here all my life. Sub rural, not quite a country boy, but not a city boy either. I went to college for drafting, didn't quite work out. I have a knack for numbers. I've done different things. I recently was running a contracting company for about 6 years, primarily roofing, storm restorations. We did a little traveling, Houston, Dallas. We went to Florida for a little while, up in North Carolina. We, went around, did some storm chasing. The company was in the process of expanding into Dallas and Austin at the same time. We kind of made a mistake to expand too much, and then the company started to contract. Well, I took an opportunity and I had my brother go ahead and just take over full operation of the company so I could step away and do what I've always been interested. Ever since I was like 13, I was telling my parents, hey, there's vacant land behind us. You need to buy it. Hey, there's this where, I was always wanting to get into real estate, but I never did because, people tell you go to college, get a job, save up. And when you're 50, start, investing in real estate.
Right, the traditional advice, right?
Yeah. But I decided I wasn't going to listen anymore. And, when I got away from the company, it kind of ruined my work life balance because, structure, you have all the time in the world, so you can put it off forever. So I was reading the books. I was trying to get into the real estate. It didn't feel real. People I talked to about it, they were like, you're going to buy an apartment complex? That's crazy. Why don't you just buy a small fix and flip? Right. But I didn't want to start small. I figured it's the same effort, the same work, but a higher return for an apartment complex. So I was like, no, I'm going to do it. I can do it. I was actually against getting coaching at the beginning because I felt, I've seen a lot of people on Facebook. Once you start searching, you get all the ads. And, I've watched some of their podcasts and stuff, and none of it really felt genuine. And I bought a few books, read it, and it didn't really provide any meat. It was just the same stuff over and over again about, oh, you can do this, you can do this. But then, when I found you, we talked a couple times, and I got to sit in on some of your public videos, and I was like, okay, this is more legit. These people are actually doing deals, right? Everyone was bringing deals. They were talking about them. There was none of that motivational speaker fluff where you would just talk for 20 minutes.
Right,
And
right.
so it
Yep.
felt like the right choice. Well, long story short, basically, that's why I joined. And ever since then, things started to move. I felt a lot more momentum. You showed me underwriting. I was able to work through. I really loved the Excel sheet you provided because it had the formulas and I could track which cells and I saw how everything related. So that thing was gold, right? It completely changed it. Because of that, I was able to add value to a deal that MD brought me onto.
So MD is another community member that is in Houston, and now you met MD I guess tell us where you met MD.
Well, basically, in our coaching calls, you found that one of the biggest things I needed to do was network, and we talked about the online stuff and other things I could do. But you basically encouraged me, go to some local events, get on Eventbrite, find the local RIA, stuff like that. And I had a deal I had found that was a 22 unit. I was able to get onto a local Zoom call the day on a Friday, and I pitched the deal, and MD was on that call. He showed some interest, and the next day was actually their monthly main meeting. So he happened to be there, and we talked a little bit. Interestingly enough, while we ended up not doing that particular deal because of what I had worked on in that deal, I showed value to him, and he brought me into an 80 unit deal. And had me do the underwriting. I started going to the site visits. I handled all the communications. So he basically, because of that, I was brought in and was given part of the GP, and I didn't have, other than obviously covering my own expenses for doing things, I didn't have to put any money into the deal.
Right, right. So at the time you we got, you know, time you got at the time you got this deal, what did your bank account actually look like?
Oh, they've actually closed my checking accounts at that time.
Oh,
Yeah, they
really?
were. Yeah, so they were negative, and I had a small savings that I cashed out my CD. Well, I had two small CDs. One I cashed out, the other one I stopped making the payments, and they said, and I just let them close it. But then for some reason, they closed my checking account too. So right now, I currently use Cash App because I just really like it. It has a lot of good features.
It's
You know,
easy, yeah, yeah.
yeah.
So what I hear is, a really good story for those that are listening. So, William, you were able to get yourself out of your comfort zone a little bit, right, and get out in these networking events, and it's not natural for a lot of people who are not extroverted and who kinda have a little bit of a wall up or a guard up to go out and just meet new people, right? I mean, that's hard. It's a skill that I had to learn, and it's a skill that not everyone has, and so what you did is you went out there, we I advise you to go out there, like, you just gotta meet people, right? I mean, the cliche of the more hands you shake, the more money you make it can't be any truer, right? And you are a direct your net worth is a direct correlation to your network, right? So that you increase your network, you are going to increase your net worth. That's just hands down 100% true.
Also, I think it has a lot to do with mindset, because the people you're around in daily life, they have a different way of thinking than the people you're going to meet at these events. And the more you're around them, the more comfortable you get being around them, because you realize they think differently, they talk differently. They're
100%.
friendly. Yeah, they're not just trying to entertain themselves or talk about TV shows. They have things going on that are very interesting. So you'll learn a lot. You'll find things that they're doing that you might want to get involved in, and it broadens your world.
I've said this before. Show me the 5 closest people that you spend the majority of your time with, and I'll show you your future, right? Because if you're not around action takers and people who have an insatiable uh, urge to succeed, then you are just gonna fall behind because that it's almost like walking into a perfume shop. You walk into the perfume shop, even though you don't buy any perfume, you're gonna walk out smelling like perfume. So if you're around all these people and you're around, I mean, MD's a great example, right? He is a go-getter. He's got a ton, I'm sure he sleeps a couple hours at night and the rest of the time he's hustling, right? And that's it. And his whole family's like that, right? His sons, his wife, his daughter, he's a great influence, great mentor for you, in addition to me. But he's a great local guy that you can lean on. But I love that. So you met him, MD, at this event. Really, it was you put yourself out there and you presented this 20-unit event. Met MD the next day, showed value in the underwriting skill set, and that was something MD I think was lacking a little bit in just how busy he is and wanting to acquire this 80 unit, and then all of a sudden you get a spot on the GP team because you added value to the whole project.
Yeah, and that's one of the things he pointed out, that basically he felt comfortable delegating almost anything to me, because anything he assigned me, sometimes like he'd be talking to me, talk about wanting to send an email, I'd be typing the email while we're talking, and I'd just get it done. And he said he liked that. So after a while, and that's what I tried to do. Anywhere I could help him, I tried to learn that skill. So mostly it's networking, communication, tracking management projects, because the underwriting really is just an early phase of the deal. And so I didn't really know how I would continue to add value other than at the beginning. But then I find that you have to keep re-underwriting the deal, because it evolves as you do your inspection, you decide how much you want to spend, you work on contractors, you get into the apartment complex, and then you find some of the things that you were looking at might be a little different. Just little things change here and there.
Yeah, 100%. And also the thing that we talked about when we first met, when you first joined, was this construction experience that you have. And so right now, the 80 unit property, you know, with this construction angle, I'm a big believer in what I call, you hear me all the time talking about it, making the most of your assets. And what that means is taking your prior experience, your prior skill set, whatever it is, and molding it into a track record that you can leverage and that you can promote. So for you, the experience in the construction industry is huge. And so right now, when you're doing asset management, you can look at the roof and see how old it is. You can look at the foundation and see if it needs to be replaced. Like you're going to have an eye for the renovations of this property that frankly a lot of people won't have unless they have that construction experience. So that's another value add, right? Another value add that you can bring to the table. Hey, I've got subcontractor connections, I've got GC connections. You can bring that to the table for sure.
And another thing I haven't used yet, but I'm aware of, is knowing about softwares related to contracting. There's one called Xactimate, which we haven't had to yet, but as we get into future projects, we might even use that because it has pricing built in. And a lot of people haven't done experience with that software.
I love that. Well, let me ask you this. Most people think they need millions of dollars to buy apartment buildings, right? What do they misunderstand?
Well, a good example is someone who didn't want to send an LOI, a new person. He wanted to have the money secured before he sent the offer, but it's actually backwards, because why would you ask someone to put in money if there isn't actually a deal to sell, right? You wouldn't go to an empty car lot to buy a car. Now it makes more sense. And they don't need the money because there's billions of dollars that people are trying to put into assets right now. People have more money. Like, you got all the people who are retiring. I think they call it the silver wave or something,
Silver
or
wave, silver tsunami.
the silver tsunami. So you
Yep.
have millions of people who have 401ks that are not earning that much. They have pensions and equity in their homes that they haven't tapped in 20 years. And so there is more money than there are good places to put it. So if you can find a good deal, and if you can present yourself as a good operator, I mean, I wouldn't say I have people falling over themselves to hand me money or anything, but I'm
Right.
definitely finding people are very interested and keen to talk to me and find out about the deal. And obviously there's only so much you can accept for one deal, but then once you network with them, and I mean, yeah, the money is definitely not the issue. There's always money.
The money's there, right? It's just about how do you find it? How do you position your property and your deal in a way that attracts the money, right? And I posted this the other day, I think on Twitter. I said, the capital raising hack is that you don't sell the opportunity, right? You don't sell the investment. You sell the value, right? You sell the value. And in the particular deal that you closed, the 80 unit, you know, the value there was the fact that it was 90% seller financing. It was not a lot of money down, and there was a big enough network that we could raise the capital for it. And the returns were really good, given that seller financing.
Yeah, and in fact, our 5-year projection, uh, MD keeps saying he thinks we can hit in 3 or 4 years, and so then we'll have a nice surprise for the investors, where we return their money faster.
100%. 100%. Now what sort of fears and doubts did you have early on when you started getting into this?
Well, the biggest one, there's the imposter syndrome. Like, you're walking around, we talked about, like, obviously I'm in a t-shirt right now at home, but wearing nice clothes, getting dressed up. Like, my first event, I was like, I don't want to sit there and put on a suit and go to this meeting, because am I going to look pompous? How am I supposed to present myself? Then you start talking about deals, like, you're like, and that's why what was really good about closing the deal was, now I'm a legitimate investor, right? I have 5.7 in assets under you and assets under management. But before that, I had to recognize that I was legitimate in that I had done the research, I had read books, I was networking, I was showing up. And that is legitimacy also. I was putting my best effort forward to find and offer a deal to investors. And I was going to do the, like you don't feel confident because you haven't done it yet, but you need to feel confident because you're in the process of doing it.
Right. Yeah, that's good advice, William. I think that's really good advice. A lot of people have imposter syndrome when they get started, and I'm a big believer in fake it till you make it. Right? Don't be afraid to now. Don't be an actual imposter, but you can do the research and you can present yourself as an expert on topics, although you may not have had the true experience of acquiring something and putting that on your track record. But you can certainly present yourself and network and talk about things. I mean, if you're good at underwriting and you can talk the talk and walk the walk, no one's going to know any different, right?
And that's another thing. You don't have to do it all yourself. It's all about finding a team. So, like for instance, I'm an underwriter, but some other positions are like the sponsor, the asset manager. I don't even know how different because it breaks up by skills. You might do one or two things or three things, but so that's why networking is important because you'll find people that are good at things you didn't even know you had to develop a skill in.
100%. Yep. So, we always say real estate is a team sport. And, I'm just full of cliches today. If you want to go, what is it? If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. Right. Another one that is really important and really good because it just shows you that, and it's hard. And what people don't understand too is multifamily, when you buy a multifamily property, you're buying a business that just happens to own a piece of real estate. Right. I mean, the real estate is the business. And our job is to operate the property and operate the business in a way that increases value. And you increase value through implementing value add strategies, through reducing expenses, making management more efficient and the like. But that requires multiple people, especially an 80 unit deal, larger deals like that. I mean, sure, if you want to go buy a 10 unit, you can probably manage it by yourself and do everything on your own. But if you really want to scale, right? And what the program is really about is how do you scale this, right? How do you get to, $100 million of assets under management, right? And that's something that you cannot do by yourself. Typically can't.
I think the cost reward would be way out. Like trying to do it yourself would be way too hard. Even if you make it, you'd be exhausted, and it would defeat the purpose because the whole idea is to build your network, expand your quality of life. You know, the when they say your network is your net worth, it goes the other way, right? Your network is worth as much as your net worth, right? Like
Mm,
if you're worth
yeah,
$1 billion, the people in your life are worth $1 billion, right?
yeah,
They're
yeah.
valuable.
That's interesting. What was the moment you realized that, okay, this deal is actually going to happen and I'm going to be a legitimate investor now?
I mean, I'm going to be honest. Even after it closed, it didn't always feel real because it's like,
Right.
okay, so we have our names on paper. We're doing this. I showed up to the apartment complex a few times. That helped because I went, sat in the office, talked to the on-site manager, and that after a while it kind of sunk in. It's like, no, I'm really doing this. I mean, I never didn't have confidence that the deal was going to happen, right? Because little secret, MD actually, well, it's not a secret, but MD actually had the ability to take down the property on his own. He wanted to bring in investors, and that's part of the whole idea about how important a network is. He could have kept all of that potential upside to himself, but he wanted other people involved because that accelerates your growth as a person, not as a person, but as a business.
100%. And if you put all of your eggs in one basket, right? You put all your money in one deal, you can only do as much as as far as that money can go, right? So instead of putting $400,000 into one deal, you can put $100,000 into four deals. You've now exponentially increased your assets under management, and you've stretched that money
And then you might be
a
working
long
with
way.
like 8 or 10 people. You can find out who you mesh with the best, and then your next 2 or 3 deals can be with a different combination of those people.
Yep. Yep. 100%. 100%. Well, what mistakes do you think you made along the way?
Mm. Early on, there were times when you get confident in things and you start thinking you know what you're doing. So I made some mistakes on some of the underwriting early on, just little things that I didn't understand the importance of, like over assuming rent growth or not double checking rent roll, because AI does a lot for us these days, and one of the things it does is pulls and consolidates information, and you got to go through and double check the accuracy. So I don't think there was so much that I made mistakes as that I continued to learn things, and I didn't always realize I was learning something for a moment. Right.
Oh,
Um,
interesting. Yeah.
yeah, because part of the thing is when you have people around you like you doing the coaching, y'all help us avoid those mistakes. Like someone was telling me about a great deal he got on three houses side by side, but he said he's had them for 30 years and he's happy with them, but he couldn't sell them if he wanted to because he didn't understand what title complications were. And so, like right now, he couldn't sell those three
Oh,
properties.
interesting.
Yeah. So luckily I haven't made any mistakes that are going to follow me for years, but there are those mistakes out there, and thankfully I have you and MD to help me avoid it. Oh, and not just MD either. There's your team. You got Carl and a whole bunch of other people in the network. So I keep bringing him back, but it's I think I have like five people that I can rely on because of you.
So yeah, so you've built that network and that community really around you, right? I mean, it's like parenting, right? It takes a village to raise a child. Well, it takes a village to raise a real estate investor.
Yep, exactly.
What habits and routines have helped you really level up in your business?
Scheduling, right? I've started living by my calendar. I put alarms for everything. I schedule events. I make sure to account for travel time in the events in the scheduling, and I'm looking at my calendar more than my Facebook. And it's great because I'm getting excited about upcoming events. Like later today, I'm going into Houston to meet someone. At 2 o'clock, I have a Zoom call with someone, right? And those are, more interesting than watching Netflix or when I was younger, I used to play video games. I'm bored of video games. Like I actually tried not too long ago because you got nieces and nephews and they talk about video games, and it's nice to be able to like play Minecraft with them. But at this point, it's like real life has become more interesting than TV because it's constantly full of potential.
Yeah, and it sounds like you've got that. You've got now you've been able to close the deal, and you've got this confidence, and now you see, wow, what could I achieve next, right?
Yeah, and what I'm looking at. I'm looking at 100 unit, 400 unit. I had a guy talk to me about $130 million property in New York. Now, unfortunately, that one's too complex because there's a lot of other stuff that I haven't even touched, like parking and office, and I wouldn't even begin to know how to underwrite a deal like that effectively. But I told him I'll look at it and do some research because that's getting to that point would definitely be a good exercise. So,
Yep.
yeah.
Yep. What kind of asset is that? It's like a trophy
Uh,
building, trophy asset?
yeah, it's like a tower. I think it's like maybe 10 stories or 15 stories, and it's like an office building with apartments on top of it. And I think a
Okay.
storefront on one side and parking. You know, I mean,
Is it
it's
for sale?
yeah, yeah. They're asking 130 million for it, and he, you know, I don't know if he's crazy like me and just wants to go for the big stuff, or if he already has a network. But you know,
Well, let me ask this. What skills do you think matter most early on for someone looking to get into multifamily investing?
honesty is very important, and not just with other people, but with yourself. Be willing to admit if you're not going to be able to keep up with something. Like early on, you want to be like, yes, I can do that. I can do that. But be honest with yourself and be willing to say, hold on, I'm at capacity right now. I don't think I'll be able to have that to you when you're asking, right? Because reasonable and realistic expectations go a long way for credibility. So I think that has been one of the biggest things that has helped people trust me when I don't have experience because I'm direct about what I can and what I can't do.
Right. Right. That's good. Yeah, don't overpromise, right? Overpromising and under delivering is the kiss of death.
If I actually used to have a salesman, or no, sorry, not a salesman, I used to have a saying when I was in contracting about sales.
Okay.
An honest contractor is one lie, or broken promise away from being a con man. That's
Mm.
it. You mess up one time, and that homeowner is going to tell everyone on Facebook you lied, you took money, you disappeared. It may not be accurate, but if you break a promise to someone, in their eyes, you're a con man,
Oh,
at
yeah.
least as a
Yeah,
contractor.
yeah. Yeah, you build a it takes a lifetime to build a reputation. It takes one sentence to kill it, right? Well, if someone is listening and they want to buy apartments and they have no money, where should they start?
Definitely with networking events. Start with a vision. You got to have an idea of what you want. So, for instance, a lot of people think single family, but this person in the scenario would be deciding they want to go into multifamily. Well, figure out what you want, figure out what you want your life to look like, and start from there. Because, for instance, I decided I didn't want to be a property manager, right? So I wanted to make sure to invest in bigger properties so that it would justify a property management company. I wouldn't buy a fourplex because I would be the one managing it, and I don't want that for my life. So find your vision
100%.
and then build back.
100%. What find your vision and feel and build that. That's great. All right. So let's close with a couple pieces of advice. So what advice would you give the version of yourself from 2 years ago?
Well, definitely start sooner, stay at it, don't get discouraged, because there was a point um, where I thought I'm just being crazy. I should go just get a job and quit this. And no, don't listen to that. It's crazy till it's real, right? And it's just as crazy to not do it as it is to do it, because there's billionaires out there, right? So it's possible. So don't
That's
don't
right.
don't don't give up.
And there's billionaires out there that started with nothing,
Yeah.
right? So don't forget that. And if someone listening is on the fence about taking action, right? What would you tell them?
Try and get involved in a deal. Maybe you don't have a lot. Maybe you could get pitched as an LP. Even if you don't have money, hear what they say, hear what they're offering, and find out what a deal is about.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, William, it's been super fun going through this with you and talking about your experience in multifamily dealmakers, and we're just thrilled that we were able to help you on this journey. And I just can't wait to see what you do next.